The war between humans and the Zoroth Empire had burned across many worlds. Whole cities had fallen, ships had turned to ashes, and the stars themselves seemed to glow brighter from endless fire. In the middle of this destruction was a lone human soldier named Ryan. Ryan had fought for many days with his squad, but now he was alone. The battlefield stretched across a broken plain on a ruined moon. Pieces of ships lay scattered like bones, smoke rose from craters, and the silence was heavy. Only the sound of wind and the crackle of fire remained. He moved carefully among the wreckage, his armor cracked and his energy rifle running low. His eyes searched not only for enemies but also for any human survivors. Yet the further he walked, the more he saw only still bodies and broken machines. Ryan's heart was heavy. The Zoroth were strong, their technology powerful, and their numbers endless. Still, humans had fought with courage, refusing to bow down. That courage was what kept Ryan standing, even now. As he crossed a field of twisted metal, he heard something strange. It was not the sound of machines or wind, it was softer, weaker, almost like a whisper. He paused, holding his breath. Again, the sound came. A faint voice, broken by pain. It was not human. The words were strange, but the tone carried a simple truth, a cry for help. Ryan followed the sound and found a broken escape pod half buried in the ground. Its shell was torn open, and sparks still leapt from shattered wires. Inside, lying on the cold surface, was a figure unlike any human he had ever seen. It was a Zoroth, but not like the warriors he had fought before. This one wore silver garments decorated with glowing symbols, far different from the armor of soldiers. Her face was pale and delicate, her long hair flowing like silver threads. She was wounded badly, her chest rising and falling in shallow breaths. Ryan froze. Every instinct told him to turn away. This was the enemy. The Zoroth had destroyed his comrades, had brought death to countless human worlds. Why should he help one of them? But then her eyes opened, weak and filled with pain. They were not cruel like the soldiers he had faced. They were soft, almost pleading. Her lips moved, and though the language was foreign, he understood the meaning in her tone, please. For a long moment, Ryan stood still, his heart battling his mind. He could walk away. No one would know. No one would blame him. Yet deep inside, something stronger spoke. She was alive. She was suffering. And even if she was from the enemy, she was still a living being. Ryan stepped closer. You are wounded, he said softly, knowing she might not understand. Her eyes flickered, and she lifted a trembling hand toward him before falling back in weakness. Ryan looked around the broken pod and found a small med device, still glowing faintly. He pressed its screen, and strange letters appeared. Somehow, the device scanned both of them, showing images of blood and cells. His eyes widened when he saw the result. Human blood was compatible with her species. It was impossible. Yet the screen showed it clearly, his blood could keep her alive. Ryan's mind raced. If he gave his blood, he could weaken himself. If he saved her, she might one day return to her people and lead them again. But if he walked away, he would forever carry the image of those weak, pleading eyes. He knelt beside her, his voice steady though his heart trembled. I don't know why fate brought us here, he whispered. But life is life. I cannot let you die. Carefully, he placed his arm into the med device. A sharp pain ran through him as the machine drew his blood and prepared it for her body. The red liquid flowed, and he watched as the device guided it into her veins. The princess, though Ryan did not yet know she was of royal blood, shivered as strength slowly returned to her. Her breathing grew deeper, her skin less pale. Ryan sat beside her, feeling his own body weaken slightly, yet his spirit felt strangely stronger. He had made his choice. Above them, the sky burned with the glow of distant ships. The war was not over. Danger still surrounded them. But in this small corner of the battlefield, something new had begun. A human warrior had given his blood to a dying alien princess. Neither of them could know that this act would change not only their lives but also the fate of two civilizations. Ryan sat on the cold ground, watching the alien woman breathe more evenly. The med device hummed softly beside them, glowing faint blue. His arm still ached where the machine had taken his blood, but he ignored the pain. What mattered now was that the stranger was alive. He studied her face in silence. She was unlike the warriors he had fought. Her skin carried a soft light, and her garments were not made for battle but for status. She was someone important, though Ryan did not know who. The silence was broken when she whispered something. The words were weak and broken, but her tone carried thanks. Though he did not understand her language, Ryan felt the meaning. He gave a small nod. Suddenly the med device beeped sharply, its light flashing red. Ryan frowned and leaned closer. Strange symbols filled the screen. He tapped it, trying to guess their meaning. Slowly, he understood her body still needed more blood. His earlier gift had saved her life for the moment, but it was not enough to keep her alive. Ryan sat back, heart heavy. He looked at the half-empty bag inside the device, then at his own tired body. If he gave more blood, he would grow weaker. A soldier on a battlefield could not afford such weakness. But if he stopped now, she would die within hours. He closed his eyes, struggling with the choice. The face of his commander came to his mind. Remember, Ryan, the enemy shows no mercy. Do not waste your strength on them. But another memory followed. His sister's voice, back on Earth, saying, "Life is precious. Even in war, never forget that." Ryan opened his eyes again. The alien's hand trembled, reaching weakly toward him. She could not speak clearly, but her eyes told a story of fear, pain, and hope all at once. His heart answered before his mind could. He placed his arm back into the device. The needle pressed again, and warm blood flowed out of him. Ryan felt the weakness creep into his muscles, but he held still, jaw tight. "Stay alive," he murmured, though she might not understand. "If I give, then you must live." Minutes passed slowly. The battlefield around them was silent, but danger always lingered. Distant explosions rumbled like storms, reminding Ryan that both humans and Zorith forces were still fighting somewhere out there. At last, the device beeped again. This time the light turned green. Her body was stable. She would live, at least for now. Ryan pulled his arm free, covering the small wound. His vision blurred for a moment, but he forced himself to stay alert. He could not rest here. The alien woman stirred, her silver hair shifting as she moved. Slowly, her eyes opened wider than before. They glowed faintly, as though touched by new energy. She looked at him, and for the first time her lips formed words that seemed almost human. "You saved me," she whispered, the sound soft but clear enough for him to understand. Ryan blinked. Did she know his language, or had his blood given her strength to form new sounds? He was unsure, but he nodded. "Yes. You are safe for now." Her eyes filled with confusion and wonder. "Why?" she asked simply. Ryan's chest tightened at the question. He looked at her, then at the battlefield. "Because life should not end this way. Enemy or not, I could not walk away." She stared at him, silent, as if trying to understand a truth she had never heard before. Before he could say more, the device gave another alert. A new message blinked on the screen. Ryan studied it, his brow furrowing. The message explained that his blood had not only healed her but had begun to blend with her own cells. Something unusual was happening inside her body. Ryan's eyes widened. Was this safe? What had he done? He turned to her, but she seemed calmer now, her strength slowly returning. She sat up with effort, leaning against the broken wall of the pod. "I am Alira," she said at last, her voice trembling but stronger. Ryan froze at the name. He had heard it before. Among the soldiers, stories spoke of a royal figure of the Zareth, a princess named Alira, daughter of their high ruler. If this was true, then he had not only saved an enemy but the very heart of their empire. His mind spun. If the humans discovered this, they might call him a traitor. If the Zareth discovered it, they might take her away and kill him. But Alira looked at him with eyes not of a ruler, not of an enemy, but of someone who owed her life to him. Ryan sighed deeply. The choice had already been made. He had given her his blood, his strength, his trust. There was no turning back. "We must move," he said, standing on unsteady legs. "This place is not safe. Drones will come." Alira nodded weakly, trying to rise. Her body wavered, but when she leaned on him, he felt a strange heat flow between them, as if some hidden bond had formed. Together they stepped out of the broken pod. The battlefield stretched endlessly, a land of fire and shadows. Above, the stars shone coldly, silent witnesses to what had just happened. Neither Ryan nor Alira could see the future, but they both felt it. The impossible choice had changed everything. The battlefield was quiet, but the silence was not safe. Smoke rose in the distance, and strange red lights blinked across the horizon where machines still moved. Ryan helped Alira walk slowly, her weight leaning against him. She was weak, yet each step showed more strength than before. Her body was changing. At first, Ryan thought it was only the effect of rest, but then he noticed details he could not ignore. Her skin, which had been pale and cold, now carried a faint warmth. Her eyes, once dull from pain, now glowed faint silver, with tiny sparks like stars within them. Even her breathing had changed. It was deeper, stronger, almost like his own. They reached a broken ridge where jagged rocks gave them shelter. Ryan lowered her to the ground gently. She sat against a stone, closing her eyes for a moment. The wind blew dust across the plain, but her silver hair seemed to shimmer against the darkness. Ryan studied her quietly. His blood flowed in her veins now, and it was clear it was doing more than healing. Something new was being born inside her. Alira opened her eyes and looked at him. "Ryan," she said, her voice weak but clear. He was startled. "How do you know my name?" Her lips curved faintly, almost into a smile. "When you gave blood, I saw pieces of you. Your name, your fight, your pain. It was like a shadow in my mind." Ryan froze. Could his blood really carry such things? He had no answer, but he knew the truth of her words. She spoke with certainty. "You saved me," she continued softly. "But now, something is different." Ryan frowned. "Different how?" She lifted her hand and looked at it. For a moment her skin glowed faint blue, then faded again. "I feel stronger. My senses are sharper. I hear things I never heard before. Even your heartbeat." She tilted her head, listening. "It is steady, like a drum in the dark." Ryan felt uneasy. He had not meant to change her. He only wanted to keep her alive. Yet whatever bond had been formed was now growing deeper. "You must be careful," he said firmly. "This place is still dangerous. The Zareth will search for you, and the humans will not welcome you. We cannot trust anyone." Alira's eyes softened. "Then I will trust you." Ryan looked away, his jaw tight. He did not want that responsibility, yet it was already his. He had saved her, and now her life was tied to his. As the night grew darker, they stayed hidden under the ridge. Ryan shared the little food and water he had left. Alira tasted the human rations and smiled faintly. "Strange flavor," she said, "but warm." For a brief moment, the war outside felt far away. But only for a moment. A low humming sound broke the silence. Ryan's head snapped up. Drones. The sound was growing louder, moving across the ruins in search patterns. He motioned for Alira to stay still. The first drone appeared over the ridge, its red eye glowing. Ryan quickly raised his damaged rifle and fired. The shot struck the drone, sending it crashing to the ground with a hiss of smoke. But the noise had drawn more. 3 more drones came, their wings buzzing like angry insects. Ryan cursed under his breath, aiming again. But before he could fire, Alira rose to her feet. Her silver eyes blazed, and her hand lifted toward the sky. A strange wave of energy burst from her palm, striking one of the drones. The machine sparked wildly before dropping from the air, its circuits fried. Ryan stared in shock. "How did you do that?" Alira looked at her hand, as surprised as he was. "I don't know. I never had such power before. It must be your blood." The remaining drones circled, but now Ryan and Alira stood together. He fired at one, she unleashed another wave of strange energy, and soon the sky was quiet again. Broken drones lay scattered across the rocks. Ryan lowered his rifle, breathing hard. "You saved us." Alira met his eyes. "No. We saved each other." There was silence between them, but not the silence of fear. It was a silence filled with something unspoken, a new bond neither of them fully understood. As dawn broke over the battlefield, the light revealed the destruction around them: burned ships, fallen soldiers, endless scars of war. Yet in the middle of that ruin, 2 figures stood alive, joined by chance and by blood. Ryan looked toward the rising sun. "We cannot stay here. Both sides will return. We must move, find safety." Alira nodded. Her strength was still fragile, but her spirit burned brighter than before. "Where you go, I will go," she said simply. And so they walked together, one human warrior and one alien princess, bound by an act that should have been impossible. Neither knew what awaited them, but both felt the truth: something greater than war had begun. The ruins stretched endlessly before them. Towers of broken metal leaned like dead trees, and the ground was scarred by fire and craters. The battlefield had become a graveyard of 2 civilizations. Ryan and Alira moved slowly, careful with each step, their eyes sharp for danger. Ryan carried his rifle ready, though its power was nearly drained. His armor was scratched, and his body was still weak from giving blood. Yet his mind stayed sharp, because now he had more than his own life to protect. Alira walked beside him, leaning slightly but refusing to fall behind. Her strength grew with each hour, her body adapting strangely fast. She seemed to hear sounds before Ryan did, and sometimes her eyes glowed faintly in the shadows, guiding them through paths he would not have noticed. They walked in silence for some time. Only the sound of crunching metal under their boots echoed in the air. Finally, Alira spoke. "You fight for survival, even when all seems lost. Humans are strange." Ryan glanced at her. "Strange? Or foolish?" Her lips curved faintly. "Both. But perhaps that foolishness is what kept you alive when stronger soldiers fell." Ryan said nothing, but deep inside, he felt the weight of her words. Humans were not the strongest, nor the most advanced, but they never gave up. Maybe that was their true weapon. As they crossed a wide field of wreckage, Alira suddenly raised her hand. "Wait," she whispered. Ryan froze. He followed her gaze and saw a shadow moving between the wrecks. At first, he thought it was another drone, but then several shapes appeared. They were scavenger machines, small but deadly, built to clean the battlefield by destroying anything still alive. The machines spotted them at once. With sharp metallic cries, they rushed forward on spider-like legs, red lights flashing. Ryan fired his rifle, the blast tearing through one of the machines. But the weapon's energy was nearly gone, and the next shot sputtered weakly. The machines came closer, their claws snapping. Alira stepped forward, her silver eyes glowing brighter than ever. She raised both hands, and waves of energy burst outward. The machines shuddered as sparks flew from their bodies. Two of them collapsed, twitching in smoke. But more kept coming. Ryan swung a broken metal pipe from the ground, striking one that leapt at him. He knocked it aside, then crushed its head under his boot. Side by side, human strength and alien power fought together. Ryan's strikes were rough but fearless, while Alira's energy pulsed with precision. Within moments, the last scavenger fell silent, its lights fading. Ryan stood breathing hard, his hands dirty with oil and dust. That was close. Alira lowered her hands slowly, staring at them in disbelief. This power, it feels alive inside me. It was never mine before. Your blood has awakened something. Ryan looked at her with unease. Then use it wisely. Power can save, but it can also destroy. She nodded, her eyes serious. I will remember. They continued their journey, moving through ruins until they reached the edge of a broken city. Towers once tall and bright now lay cracked and fallen, their glass shining like frozen tears. The silence here was heavy, filled with the ghosts of what had been. As they walked among the ruins, Alira's voice grew softer. My people were taught that humans are reckless, weak, and dangerous. But you gave your blood to save me. You risked your life when you could have left me. Why? Ryan stopped, staring at the ruins. His voice was low. Because I could not watch someone die when I had the chance to stop it. War makes us forget what matters. I do not want to forget. Alira looked at him for a long time. Her eyes carried confusion, but also a strange respect. Perhaps your kind is not what we believed. Their talk was cut short by the sound of engines above. They looked up and saw two ships moving through the sky, one bearing human markings, the other Zoroth. Both were scanning the battlefield, searching for survivors. Ryan's chest tightened. If either side finds us, we will not be safe. The humans will see me as a traitor for protecting you. The Zoroth will see me as an enemy for touching you. Alira placed a hand on his arm. Her voice was calm but firm. Then we survived together, unseen. Ryan nodded. They moved quickly into the shadow of a broken tower, hiding beneath fallen beams as the ships passed overhead. The rumble of engines shook the ruins, but at last the sound faded. They sat in silence for a while. Ryan checked his rifle, only one charge remained. He sighed. We need to reach safer ground. Perhaps an old outpost, maybe even a cave system? Alira closed her eyes, as if listening to the earth. There is a place. I can feel it, far beyond the broken hills. A quiet place. Ryan studied her, then gave a slow nod. Then we head there. But it will not be easy. Her eyes glowed faintly as she met his gaze. Nothing worth living for is ever easy. Together they rose and set out once more. The battlefield stretched endlessly, danger waiting in every shadow. But step by step, they walked forward, not as enemies, not as strangers, but as two lives bound together by fate. The ruins grew quieter the further they walked. The sounds of drones and scavenger machines faded behind them, replaced only by the whisper of the wind. Ryan kept his rifle ready, but his eyes often moved to Alira. She was walking with more strength now, her steps steady and her eyes bright. Something had changed in her since his blood entered her body. She was no longer just a fragile survivor. Power seemed to flow within her veins, silent but alive. Even she did not fully understand it. As they reached a cluster of rocks at the edge of the battlefield, they stopped to rest. Ryan sat on a flat stone, scanning the horizon for movement. Alira stood beside him, looking at the sky where the stars shone faintly through the smoke. Ryan, she said softly. He turned to her. What is it? I must tell you something. A truth I never thought I would speak to a human. Her voice was serious, and he listened closely. My people, she began, the Zoroth, believe we are chosen above all others. From birth we are told that humans are reckless creatures, brave perhaps, but weak, simple, and unworthy. We were taught that humans are only a danger to the galaxy, nothing more. Ryan gave a bitter smile. That sounds like what many of my commanders say about the Zoroth. Each side paints the other as monsters. Alira lowered her head. I believed those lessons all my life. I thought my path was clear, to follow my father, to lead my people, and to crush those who opposed us. But when you gave me your blood, everything I believed began to break. She raised her hand, watching the faint glow that sometimes sparked across her skin. This power in me was never there before. It was sleeping, locked away. And now it has awakened, because of you. Ryan frowned. Because of my blood? She nodded. Yes. Our royal bloodline carries an ancient strain, older than even our empire. It was said to be the gift of the stars, passed only through my family. But it was always silent, waiting for something to stir it. When your blood entered me, it awakened what was hidden. Ryan's chest tightened. So I changed you. Alira's eyes met his. No. You did not only change me. You saved me. You gave me part of your strength, your humanity. And it is reshaping me into something new. The silence between them grew heavy. Ryan looked at the ground, his thoughts spinning. If her people discovered this, what would they do? If his own commanders learned of it, would they see him as a danger? But before he could speak, Alira knelt before him. Her silver eyes shone with quiet fire. You risked your life for me, though I was your enemy. You shared your blood when you had no reason to. That choice was not weakness, Ryan, it was strength greater than any weapon. Her words struck him deeply. For so long, he had thought of himself only as a soldier, a man carrying orders in a war too large for him. Yet now, in her voice, he heard something different. Maybe, he said softly, but strength is nothing if it does not protect. She gave a faint smile. Then you are the strongest man I have ever known. The words hung between them, warm against the cold night. Suddenly, a distant roar shook the ground. Ryan stood at once, weapon raised. He saw faint lights moving in the distance, ships landing, both human and Zoroth. The war was still spreading, and soon both armies would cover this place. Alira looked at him with worry. They are searching. If they find us, neither side will listen. Ryan nodded. I know. We have to move quickly. But before they left, Alira touched his arm. Ryan, one more truth. If I return to my people, they will use me as a weapon. They will see my new power as a tool for war. And if I return to yours, they will call you traitor for saving me. We stand between two fires. Ryan's jaw tightened. She was right. There was no safe path. Only forward. He looked at her, his voice steady. Then we make our own path. Whatever this bond between us is, it means something. We cannot waste it. Alira's eyes glowed faintly in the dark. Then let us walk it together. As dawn began to rise, painting the ruins in pale gold, Ryan and Alira left the rocks behind and stepped into the open land. The future was uncertain, but one thing was clear, secrets had been revealed, and they were no longer enemies. They were something else now, something new, born of sacrifice and trust. And soon, that bond would be tested in ways they could not imagine. The morning sky burned with strange colors. Smoke from distant battles rose like black towers, and the horizon glowed with flashes of fire where ships clashed above the ruined land. Ryan and Alira stood on a hill, looking down at the valley below. Two armies were gathering. On one side, the humans prepared their lines, soldiers in worn armor marching with discipline, banners raised high. On the other side, the Zoroth forces stood proud, their machines gleaming and their weapons humming with energy. The valley was wide, but soon it would be filled with blood and fire. Ryan's chest grew heavy. Another battle, he muttered. How many more until nothing is left? Alira's silver eyes reflected the rising sun. She was silent at first, then spoke softly. If this battle happens, both sides will lose. Many will fall. And still the war will continue. Ryan looked at her. You sound as if you want to stop it. She nodded. Yes. My blood was always meant to lead my people. But now, with your blood within me, I see differently. We fight because we fear each other. We destroy because we do not understand. Perhaps it is time someone shows another path. Her words made Ryan uneasy. He had seen commanders on both sides, stubborn and proud. They will not listen. To them, peace is weakness. Then we must make them listen, Alira said firmly. Before Ryan could answer, movement below caught his eye. Scouts from both sides had noticed something unusual in the valley, strange energy surges, caused by the battle with drones the night before. Soon, both armies would move toward the very place where Ryan and Alira stood. We don't have time, Ryan said. He gripped his rifle. If they find us here, it will end badly. But Alira stepped forward, her silver hair shining in the sunlight. No, Ryan. This is the moment. If we run, war continues. If we stand, maybe there is hope. Ryan felt torn. Every soldier's instinct told him to hide, to survive. But deep inside, he knew she was right. Fate had brought them together not only to live but to change something greater. He sighed, lowering his weapon. Then we stand. But if this goes wrong, we may not live to see the end. Alira looked at him with quiet strength. Then let us face it together. Moments later, both armies began to advance into the valley. Dust rose as boots and machines shook the ground. Human soldiers pointed their rifles, Zoroth warriors raised their glowing blades, and the air filled with tension like a storm waiting to break. Then the two armies saw them. A single human warrior and the alien princess, standing side by side in the open. Shouts rang out. The human commanders ordered their men to capture Ryan. The Zoroth generals shouted for Alira to be taken back at once. Confusion spread across both armies. Why were they together? Why was she alive when she should have fallen? Ryan raised his voice, loud and strong. Stop. His words echoed through the valley. This war has already taken too much. Do you not see? It will never end unless we change. The human soldiers hesitated, surprised by his courage. But the commanders barked orders again, unwilling to listen. Then Alira stepped forward, her silver eyes glowing with energy. A wave of light spread from her, forcing both sides to pause. She lifted her voice, filled with power that carried across the battlefield. I am Alira of the Zoroth, she declared. I should have died on the battlefield. But I live because a human gave me his blood. His life flows within me. I am no longer only Zoroth. I am something new, something between our worlds. The armies murmured in shock. Even the commanders stood frozen. Alira lifted her hand, showing a spark of energy dancing across her palm. This power was hidden in my people for generations, silent and locked away. But it awakened only when human blood joined mine. Do you not see? We are not so different. We are stronger together. Ryan stepped beside her, his voice steady. We can choose to destroy each other, or we can choose to live. If one soldier and one princess can stand together, then why not all of us? For a long moment, silence ruled the valley. The soldiers looked at each other, uncertain. The leaders of both sides shouted in anger, trying to regain control, but the doubt had already spread. Alira turned her gaze on both armies. If you fight today, you fight against the future. If you stop, even for a moment, you may save countless lives. Her words echoed like thunder. Some soldiers lowered their weapons. Others looked at their leaders with questioning eyes. The balance of war trembled in that single moment. Ryan's heart pounded. He stood ready, knowing that if the leaders gave the order, both armies would charge and crush them. But Alira's voice had already planted a seed. A new choice stood before them: war or peace. The valley held its breath, waiting for what would come next. The valley held a tense silence. Dust rose from the ground, and the faint glow of distant fires painted the horizon red. Soldiers on both sides lowered their weapons slightly, still unsure what to do. Commanders barked orders, but their voices seemed to fade in the presence of something greater. Ryan stood beside Alira, his body tired but his spirit strong. He could feel the bond between them, alive and steady, stronger than any fear. Every heartbeat reminded him why he had given his blood the choice that had begun this impossible journey. Alira lifted her hand, and a soft glow spread from her palm. The light was not harsh or threatening, but calm and radiant, as if it carried hope itself. She spoke with power that filled the valley. "Soldiers of both worlds," she said, her voice clear and unwavering. "I am Alira of the Zoroth. I should have fallen in the war, yet I live because a human warrior gave his blood to save me. His courage, his sacrifice, has joined with mine. And now, I see what is possible when we do not destroy each other." The armies stood frozen. Humans whispered among themselves, surprised by the truth. Zoroth warriors shifted uneasily, not used to hearing such words from their princess. Ryan stepped forward, raising his voice. "I am Ryan, a soldier of Earth. I saved Alira because life matters. Not because she is a princess, not because she is Zoroth, but because she is alive. And if one human can reach out to one alien, then maybe all of us can learn to see each other as more than enemies." Alira's eyes glowed silver, brighter than before. "The war has lasted too long. We have destroyed too much. But we can change that. If we stop today, even for a moment, we can begin a future where our children will not know this fear, this loss." The commanders of both sides stepped forward, shouting for their soldiers to prepare for battle. Yet even their strongest words were weakened by the courage and truth in Alira's voice. Soldiers lowered their weapons, looking at one another with doubt and hope. Then something remarkable happened. Alira raised both hands, and a wave of energy pulsed outward. It was not destructive. It did not harm. Instead, it moved through the valley like a gentle wind, touching soldiers and machines alike. The humans felt their anger soften. The Zoroth warriors felt their fear lessen. For a moment, the hatred that had fueled generations seemed to fade, replaced by a strange and powerful understanding. Ryan watched in awe. "It's working," he whispered. Alira nodded, her glowing eyes scanning the valley. "We are not enemies. We are different, yes. But our blood, our courage, our lives, they are the same in what matters most. Life. Hope. Choice." The leaders of both armies finally stopped shouting. The soldiers on both sides hesitated, then slowly lowered their weapons completely. Whispers of disbelief spread. Could it really be possible? Could a human and an alien princess, together, have stopped the greatest war in history? Ryan stepped closer to Alira. "We did not just survive," he said softly. "We made them see another way." Alira smiled faintly, her silver hair glowing in the sunlight. "It was not just us. It was the choice we made. A choice to act, to risk everything for something greater than ourselves." In the distance, the sky began to clear. The fires of battle faded into smoke, the horizon brightened, and a sense of peace, fragile, yet real, spread across the valley. Soldiers began to move carefully, talking to one another, trying to understand what had just happened. Some reached out to the other side with hands raised. Some shared water and supplies. Slowly, the first steps of trust were born. Ryan and Alira stood together, their bond stronger than ever. They had faced death, danger, and impossible odds. They had given each other life and courage. And now, in a way that no one could have believed, they had given hope to two civilizations. Alira looked at him, her eyes filled with gratitude and something deeper. Ryan, we may not know what comes next. Our journey is only beginning. But we have shown them that the impossible is possible. Ryan nodded, his hand brushing hers. Then we keep moving forward. Together. Above them, the stars shone faintly, silent witnesses to what had happened. A single act of sacrifice, a choice made in the middle of a battlefield, had changed everything. For the first time in generations, humans and Zorth could imagine a world without endless war. And it all began because one human warrior gave his blood to save a dying alien princess. In that moment, nothing seemed impossible.